As you can tell, being able to decipher what I'm saying is not the easiest thing to do in this room. It's rather hard to hear what we're saying because of the acoustics. And if we have other conversations occurring at the same time, it gets even worse. So we appreciate your cooperation in taking the conversations outside. Today is one of those very hectic days in City Hall. I have other colleagues who are in this committee who are right now having a hard time leaving either Budget and Finance Committee or Jobs Committee. So every committee is important, and so is your time. So I want to get started as soon as I can. It's right now just over 2:15, Madam Clerk. It's 2:20. So I'm going to get started and hopefully get this coordinated. I understand that I have a policy where I like to move the items where the Los Angeles Police Department is involved, because I'd rather have them out doing their job in our city than being stuck in the hearing room. But my understanding is we could wait 30 minutes according to the officer. So we will wait 30 minutes so that we can hear item 11 while presenting a quorum to you. So we'll hold off on item 11. I wanted to go first because I don't want to keep the officers here, but I'm being told they will wait 30 minutes. I appreciate your cooperation, sir. What I'd like to do is go through the agenda. So those items that we can act upon will move. And so if you're here for those items, you don't have to wait all afternoon. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Para personas que gustarían tener aparatos para traducir, tenemos aparatos para ustedes. Madam Clerk, should we have them raise their hand and they can get it to them? Si pueden levantar la mano y así podemos distinguir quién prefiere usar los aparatos para traducir. Si más puedes levantar la mano, por favor. Así pueden conseguir un aparato. And who's passing them out? Okay. Okay. So, me dicen que ya han atendido a la gente que gustaría un aparato. ¿Hay alguien que le hace falta un aparato? ¿Todos están bien? ¿Nos falta uno? No, one more over there. Sorry? Okay, so, ahorita vamos a conseguir más. So, al momento que lleguen más aparatos, se les van a dar. Nos hace falta uno, yo creo. Okay, I was just translating that folks who would like to use translating devices to raise their hand. And we do have 2 more folks who need it. There are more of the translation devices being brought to us from audio. As soon as they get here, please keep your hands raised and we'll make sure we get them to you. Okay. So that being said, let's just run through the agenda, and when I have a quorum, then we will take our vote. On item 2, seeing no cards, we're going to move to adopt. Item 1, I'm going to call special so we can get a presentation from the staff on item 1. So 2, we will adopt, that will be the recommendation. 3, we'll call special because of cards. 4, there are no cards for number 4. Our action there will be to request the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance that reflects the overhead rates. And I think we'll call that special, get a report on that too. But that would be our recommendation. 5, we have cards. 6, seeing no cards, the action will be to request the city attorney to prepare and present the ordinance on number 6. On 7, we're going to move on consent. Number 8 on consent. Number 9, 10, 11 we'll call special because we have cards on each one. Well, if you don't need to speak, you're a very wise man because it's going to be on consent, so good for you. So that's the only person with a card. So that would be the recommendation. So that was 9, 10, 11. 12 will continue for 1 week. And that's number 12 will continue for 1 week. On 13, we'll call special. That's probably the smallest case on the agenda. Right, let me show you the cards here, folks. It's a lot of cards, so we're going to work through that one. Okay. So, that being said, let's start with number 1, and we get a presentation from the staff on number 1. And Roberto, if you can please summarize number 1 for the record.
Sure. Item 1, Councilman, has a motion, Reyes Garcetti, requesting city attorney to prepare a report to this committee relative to the Construction Services Committee and options to reconfigure the committee. The city attorney report is on file and is available for discussion.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Council Member, Deputy City Attorney Renee Stottle. We have prepared a report for you regarding the current composition of the Construction Services Committee and recommendations about what the Council's options for moving forward with the Construction Services Committee. Just a very brief background, the Construction Services Committee was formerly called the One Stop Committee, and it's been in existence since the early 1980s. As it's currently been working, they have an oversight function relating to the Construction Services Trust Fund, and in recent years have been exercising final decision-making authority with regard to the trust fund. As questions came up, we reviewed the situation, and in order to fully comply with all city and state rules, our recommendations are primarily 2 options for the City Council to consider. One option is either for the Construction Services Committee to be considered to be final decision makers, but if they are considered to be final decision makers, then the committee, the city, must adopt a conflict of interest code for the committee, and those members of the committee must file financial disclosure statements. In addition, because of other city law, if they are final decision makers, the members of the committee cannot be registered lobbyists, and it's my understanding that currently that's at least some of the members currently are. In order to do so, if we were to go that route, we would need to take a few steps to ensure that that's the case. The other option is to transform the committee into a strictly advisory committee, such that the decisions of the committee are substantively reviewed by another city decision maker, and so they are not treated as final. In order to achieve that, we would need to change the ordinance regarding the committee and its functions.
Well, thank you for that summary, and I believe given our options and the objective of this committee as it was introduced and I've seen it function was to have individuals who understand some of the complexities and challenges of trying to improve building and safety and its operations and its conduct. And so we're in a rather strange place in that the folks who know how this place tends to function and its minutia and its intricacies are folks who are familiar with City Hall. But I also believe in the Ethics Committee and its role in making sure we're transparent and that we have the type of activity here and functions that can stand in the face of integrity, and I believe that's one of our highest goals as a council. So that being said, I would recommend that we prepare and present an ordinance that revises the structure of the committee to have an advisory role. In addition, instruct that the ordinance include language to enable the council and plum committee to have the capacity to review and amend or modify as needed any of the construction services recommendation. So that way, whatever actions we take is done in light of day and it's very transparent. And that would be my recommendation and direction to the staff. And how much time do you think you would need to come back, understanding the light load that you have in front of you?
We would probably request 30 days.
Okay. Well, why don't you give us a report back in 30 days, and if we're lucky, we're there. If not, then we'll assess it again.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Number 3, we have cards on number 3. Our city attorney, I need to ask you a question. On number 3, I'd like to begin the discussion, the presentation, and I have cards and people will speak, but I don't have my colleagues with me. If they were to show up in the middle of the discussion, we have to start over again so they can hear everything, or can they essentially have the opportunity to ask questions so that way they can make a judgment?
Well, they should actually hear everything, because otherwise they won't have the full input. So if there are other matters that you can go to that don't involve a public hearing, it'd probably be best.
Okay, let me see if I can find a couple. We'll buy some time. How are we doing with our colleagues? Are they on the way yet? Do we know? Can we check? Can we check to see how we're doing with? Number 6 looks like a good one. There is no public comment cards there. Roberto, can we go with 6? We already voted on that? Okay. Well, let's do this, because I don't want to start on one of the topics that have public comment cards, and the ones that are left, that's all I have left. So I'm going to take a 5-minute recess, and I appreciate your patience. And Gail's not here for a report. Vince, you want to do a report? Just kidding. All right, let's take a 5-minute recess, and hopefully we'll get our committee members here to join. We don't need a 5-minute recess. All right. Welcome, sir. I made the audience and our constituents aware that you were busy with another committee, and it's one of those crazy days in City Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 4 committees today, actually.
4 committees, all right. And this is number 2 or 3?
Yeah.
Number 3, all right. You're on a roll. Have you had lunch? Want something to drink? All right. I mean, a soda, water, juice. All right. I should have been a little bit more specific. So on item 11, we have an officer with us today, and we would like to get him back out to do his job. So if the folks will bear with me, let me just share with you what this committee has done so far. And I've called special all the items that have cards, speaking cards. But the actions we've taken so far is on number 2, I move to adopt, saying there are no cards. On 6, we requested the city attorney prepare and present the ordinance. I'm sorry, number 1, we asked the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance that revises the structure of the committee to have an advisory role. In addition, instruct that the ordinance include language to enable the council and plum committee to have the capacity to review and amend or modify as needed any of the construction services recommendation. So that way those who sit on that particular advisory board, the final action will be taken by us. So that would be 1, and 2, move to adopt, and 6, we requested the city attorney to prepare and present the ordinance. On 7 and 8 and 9, we move to on consent. On 10 and 11, we have special, as well as 12 and 13. So that would be, it's in front of us.
I think on item 4, you also acted on that, Councilman.
Okay. Right, because we have no speaker cards on that. On 4, what we did is request the city attorney to prepare and present ordinance that reflects the overhead rates. And I believe we wanted a quick report from the planning department as well,
Yes,
so
Councilman.
we can understand what those rates would do.
Because it's interrelated with the Corette's motion in number 5.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the item in which we have our LAPD with us. That'd be item 11, I believe. And Roberto, if you could...
Sure. Item 11 is an appeal by Kenneth McKenzie. They're appealing the action of the zoning administrator, which found that the operation of the Florentine Gardens in CD 13 has had limited compliance with conditions of approval.
And just to be very clear, if I can ask Councilor Kekorian if you agree with the actions that we've taken so far? Okay. For the record, it's been agreed. Okay, so we have our staff in front of us. Please give us the overview.
Good afternoon, Michael LeGrand, Department of City Planning, Chief Zoning Administrator. Before you today, we have the applicant requested a modification of some of their conditions under DIR 1996-0122 RV PA4. Just a little background, plan approvals are a mechanism for applicants to come and change conditions of approval we have on prior cases. Back in 1996, this operation did have a revocation proceeding. Go forward with it with public hearings, and since that time they've been under a review program, and this application is actually initiated by the applicant to have a review and some modifications made to their condition. The original zoning administrator on the case was Patricia Brown. Since the time she's retired, I've taken over the case. I've met with the applicant, the owner, as well as officers from Los Angeles Police Department, as well as the council office, and I think we've come to an agreement on many of the conditions before you and a compromise on some of the other ones. Unfortunately, there's still a few conditions where we politely agree to disagree with the applicant in terms of amending our approval in the past for certain operational items. So if you'd like, you can take public testimony, and I can conclude by walking you through the conditions, or I can do that at this point.
Well, let's do this. Let's go through the public comment. Let's hear from the appellant, and then you can come back with additional language that, in case it changes.
Very good.
So if we can get the representative for the appellant or the appellant to the microphone. Thank you, sir. Please introduce yourself. Give us your name and address.
Good afternoon, Councilman Reyes, Councilman Kekorian. My name is Lee Rabin. I'm a consultant with CLR Enterprises Incorporated. My address is 420 South San Pedro Street, Suite 225, Los Angeles 90013. I represent the applicant in this matter, Mr. Kenneth McKenzie, who has owned the Florentine Gardens since 1982. In 1996, the city filed a revocation action, which implemented a list of conditions. This is the 6th review that's been held on the Florentine Gardens since 1996. They were annual or biannual reviews. But this is the first one that is implemented by the owner. Mr. McKenzie is the applicant here. Even your agenda today shows the City of Los Angeles as the applicant, and that is incorrect. This was initiated by Mr. McKenzie under 12.27.1-D, which is a section of the LAMC that allows a landowner to request the city to modify conditions that were imposed because of a revocation action. I have a few exhibits that I'd like to give you that I'll be referring to, and hopefully it would help me prove our case.
Now, you know we have a full agenda with many other cases in front of us. Will you be taking a lot of time, or how much time do you need?
I should be finished in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. We did have a meeting with the Council Office, Police Department, and Mr. LeGrand, and we worked out or came to consensus on a number of the conditions under which we filed the appeal. There are 3 remaining issues, though, that we'd like you to consider. One is a condition that requires that the premises close at 2 a.m. in the morning. This is a grand ballroom, maybe one of the icon venues in Hollywood. It's more than 20,000 square feet with a capacity of about 1,500 people. It was built in the 1920s. It's been a restaurant and banquet hall, event venue since the early 1980s. Other similar events or similar venues are within a mile, one being the Palladium down on Sunset Boulevard, the other one being the Avalon, the old Palace back in my day or our days, on Vine. Both of those venues are 24-hour a day venues. They're allowed to operate 24 hours a day. Of course, not with alcohol, but what I've given you here is on the
How far away are they?
The one on Vine, the Avalon, is within a half mile. I'd say they're both within a half mile.
Okay.
I've downloaded portions of their websites on the email to show you that they do have 24-hour events. The Avalon here has an event advertised for Friday, April 23rd. It runs from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. Next is the Palladium that shows an event that starts at 3:30 in the morning. It's booked on their calendar for May 14th. Another one of the conditions that we need relief from, we have a huge parking lot. This is about a 2-acre site. And Mr. McKenzie, if you look at the radius map, he owns all of the property that I've highlighted in yellow. It's the 4th page down. Next door to him, 200 feet away, there's another event venue that opened about 9 years ago. That property and their parking lots are highlighted in pink. Now, Mr. McKenzie cannot use a rear driveway off of Carlos Avenue because it's close to this green highlighted area, which is an apartment building. But as you can see, the Vanguard, which is 200 feet away, has parking that's closer to that resident than we are. They're allowed to use their parking until 4 in the morning. Mr. McKenzie cannot. We're asking that he be allowed to use that parking entrance on Carlos for entry only, no exiting, so there'll be no late night disturbance. And we feel it's a very reasonable request. It'll also help lighten the traffic and as cars are loading in from Hollywood Boulevard earlier in the evening. And our last request is to modify condition number 25 in the zoning administrator's determination, but it's actually number 4 from a 1984 CUP. And that condition requires that we can have no one under 18 at the Florentine Gardens at any time. I've downloaded another portion of the website from, this is from the Palladium, that shows that they allow people over 5 years old at their venue. The Palladium and the Avalon are both 47 licensed, as we are. We realize that there is a curfew in the city of LA, but if I wanted to take my 8-year-old granddaughter there to see Menudo, I wouldn't be allowed to after, well, at any time as it currently stands, and that's what we're requesting.
Is Menudo still around?
I was telling the officer earlier, the last concert I went to was probably Frank Sinatra, so.
Okay. I was just checking, that's all. All right. Anything else, sir?
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Let's have our officer here. We can have him come on up. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, council members. Thanks for bumping this up a little bit. So again, this is in reference to Florentine Gardens.
Would you mind just speak into the microphone and just start again and introduce yourself and go from there?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Officer Colin Langsdale. I'm assigned to Hollywood Vice at 1358 Wilcox Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. This is in regards to the matter of Florentine Gardens. As was discussed previously by the first two people, many of the conditions we've already reached agreement on, and we don't have any issues with that, but there are the three remaining conditions that the police department does have issue with. So I'll just do them in order real quick. The first one is we're requesting to stay open until 6 a.m. Again, we're opposing that. We were okay with them staying open until 4 a.m., which is an additional 2 hours past what they're currently allowed to operate to. One thing that we're trying to start within Hollywood area, especially with the influx of nightclubs and the revitalization that's going on, is try to stagger the closing times. That way we don't have everybody hitting the streets right at the 2 a.m. mark. And so, we've decided, since they're a bigger nightclub, that, we'd be willing to allow that. The reasoning that we don't want to go past that 4 a.m. mark is that our staffing levels significantly decrease right around that 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. mark. And with a venue that can hold 1,500 people in it, if an emergency were to happen between them and the Vanguard and the Palladium and those other large venues, not only our division, but the department would be pretty stressed to be able to handle some kind of emergency. So that's why we're opposing that 6 a.m. mark. As far as the parking lot is concerned, we don't have any issues with them using, with accessing the parking lot off of Carlos, as long as it's an entrance only. We try to, because there are those residences that are on Carlos, we're just trying to prevent loitering and heavy vehicle traffic at that those late hours. So because the other side of their parking lot exits onto Hollywood Boulevard, we feel that as long as all the vehicles are exiting onto Hollywood Boulevard, we don't have any problems with them entering onto Carlos. And again, provided that there's security back there preventing loitering and that sort of thing. Let's see here. Then the last issue that we haven't come to agreement on is the allowance of all ages at all hours of their operation. We are okay with them allowing 17-year-olds and under up until 7 p.m. And that would include special events and private parties as well as public events. But in order to alleviate any issues that we might have with delinquency of minors and minors in possession of alcohol, minors drinking alcohol, we would request that before they reopen their club to 18 and ups, that they fully clear the premises prior to reopening it. So I'm not saying that they would officially close, but at least they'd clear the place out of all the underage people in there before starting it back up for the night. We're just trying to prevent any types of 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds being in there mixing with 18 and 21-year-olds that are going to be drinking and that sort of thing. So we feel that as long as it's cleared out, then that would probably alleviate that issue. And that's all that I have.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And the last area of concern, is that specified in one of the conditions?
I'm sorry, what was that, sir?
The last area of concern, as you just described, in the folks who are underage and clearing them out, is that under one of the conditions?
Their conditions right now are basically only 18 and up are allowed inside there, and that goes along with our ABC license, so they're allowed to have 18 and up. So they were requesting all ages, so we kind of met in the middle and said, well, you can have all ages up until a certain point. So we're allowing, we're in agreement that all ages can be in there because, as he mentioned during our initial meeting, that they were interested in hosting bar mitzvahs and graduations and things of that nature, which would require you to allow obviously underage kids in there. So, but we just wanted to prevent a mixing of the of all the ages.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilman? Okay. Thank you, Officer Langsdale.
Thank you. Have a good
for your
afternoon.
presentation and your hard work, and be careful. All right. We have with us several cards, and I'm assuming the council office wants to speak last. Would that be right? Okay. So let's go through the cards, and we'll be giving you 2 minutes, given the number of folks that we have on queue. Please state your name and address, and give us your position. If the person before you has already stated your position, it's okay to say I agree and add anything new, but I would hate to hear the same thing over and over again, because that would not be a very productive use of our time. So that being said, I'd like to call up Carlos Greco Bolarte, Humberto Castrillon, I believe. You're welcome to come on up. And Elba Berus. Good afternoon, sir. Give us your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Greco Bolarte. My address is 11814 Hesby Street in Valley Village. I'm appearing before you on behalf of the Florentine Gardens. I happen to be acquainted with the place since 1979, when Mr. Mackenzie originally purchased the Florentine Gardens. And in reality, the only thing that we're asking for is equal treatment. I am aware that most of the venues in the area are allowed to stay open 24 hours a day. Last month, I approached Mr. Mackenzie with a proposal to do a fundraiser on behalf of the people of Chile for the victims of the earthquake. And this motion, that petition was, of course, denied due to the fact that we would have minors attending the event. Also, I'd like to mention that this venue is the last Hollywood landmark from the golden era of Hollywood. And I would say also it's the last business owned by Latino. And in a way, we are just asking for equal treatment, and we feel like we're being left out of this wonderful melting pot. And also, I'd like to mention what the officer that appeared in front of you failed to mention, is that we hold the best record, the best record in the past 10 years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Humberto Castrillon. I live in Fort Wayfair, Irvine, California. I'm here just to, I agree with the other person said, 100%, but on top of that, I think that this is an opportunity for the city to create new jobs, new income for the city, and I think that we need to be treated equally like the other places. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Council Member Ed Reyes, Council Member. I'm here on behalf of the Ecuadorian community and other Latin American communities which celebrate in the Florentine Gardens our Fiestas Patrias. We would like to have, as a family, the minors in there, and we would like also to get extended hours to be able to celebrate the Latin American culture in Los Angeles. Here is my programs that include Florentine Gardens, celebrities in the place of our events. So we are here to back up Kenny Mackenzie in the Florentine Gardens petition.
May I have your name and address, please?
Elba Borrus at 642 North Virgil Avenue, Los Angeles, 9004.
Thank you very much.
I live in my programs.
Okay. Frankie Contreras, Francisco Rivera, I believe it's J-I-E-D, Jaid, I'm sorry, Mansouri, and then Percy Durant. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Frankie Contreras. I live in the 2557 Westwood Boulevard, Rancho Park, California. And I am here today to in support of the Florentine Garden venue. And I agree with what the previous people said. I only want to concentrate in three themes. I think that by approving this project, it will help the city of Los Angeles to create longer operation hours. It will help the city of Los Angeles to create more jobs, meaning more taxes for the city of Los Angeles. It also means better for the economy, given the fact that the city of Los Angeles has lost about 40,000 jobs in the last past 5 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Dear Councilmember Reyes, Chair of the Plan Committee, dear Councilmember Paul Kerkorian, Member of the Plan Committee. My name is Francisco Rivera, and I am the President of the Board of Directors of Rescate, a 30-year community service organization located at 1501 West 8th Street, Suite 100, California 90017. I am here to request that the appeal by Mr. Kenneth McKenzie, owner of Florentine Gardens, located at 5951 Hollywood Boulevard, Council File 10-0119, be approved. As stated in a recent audit of the Planning Department by the City Controller Wendy Gruel, quote, one area that has long kept the city from being more business-friendly is that Angelinos spend months and sometimes years awaiting approval for zoning and land use permit. That has been the case with Florentine Gardens that took for more than a year, for the zoning administrator to make a determination, plus the time of the appeal, and with the detriment of the equal rights and of Mr. Kenny McKenzie and the losses. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Councilmember Kerkorian, please do approve the categorical exemption and appeal for Mr. McKenzie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable
Plum
Council members and board members. My name is Jaid Mansouri. I live in 4836 Riverton in North Hollywood, California. I do agree with what my colleagues before me have said. The Florentine Garden is a like establishment in the Latino community. It's a mecca of different cultures coming in. I mean, at any night you can go in there and you see Latinos, Hispanics, African Americans, Middle Easterns like myself having a great time. It is truly the melting point for dance clubs. I mean, the variety of music we play is everything from Elvis to Lady Gaga. So it is what Los Angeles is and Hollywood is about. I just want to say one thing. One of the reasons that some of these conditions were put on their operations was not because the police department had safety concerns and stuff, but it was because there was a small organization of 4 people in the Hollywood Hills who were very reluctant to have a Latino business owner be successful in that area. I've been to community meetings and small, city neighborhood councils where I've sat on the wrong side of the podium or the wrong side of the chairs, and they're appalled to have a Latino person be successful in Hollywood. One of those persons, who was actually a member of the neighborhood council, he has since then retired, was on the board of the Palace, our competition. And he was also sitting in the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council, and he actually started this whole ordeal with the eminent domain and so forth. So I'm glad to be in front of a more fair organization. We look to you for fairness and equal ability to serve our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mansouri. Former Commissioner Percy Duran.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Percy Duran. I live at 720 Ganymede Drive, Los Angeles, 90065. As a former member of the Board of Public Works and as a member of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, as others have indicated, there's a real question of equal protection. You have other venues in the area that have the opportunity to provide these services at the hours and the times and to the community. We feel as this particular venue is located on the east end of Hollywood Boulevard near the courthouse. It's away from the main sector. It gives the Latino community an opportunity to have functions, and as we know, the Latino community is different in the sense of involving their children, their neighbors, their community, and so we would ask your support on this measure. Thank you.
Mr. Duran, and knowing that you've been around the City Hall for a while, when we hear the officers speak to a staged exit plan, if you will, for venues that have such high numbers, and because the priority is public safety, how do you feel or how do you respond to that assertion?
I think as we've seen, even the Church of Scientology this weekend had a big venue and you had the controls in place. I think as was indicated in the last 10 years, Mr. McKenzie has taken every opportunity to keep control of that operation, and he's done a very good job. So as long as he continues in that venue, and even as the police department indicated, then you would not have the problems that they've indicated that may occur.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Any questions? No. Thank you. Okay, our second to last card, because the public hearing is now closed, is Steve Maldonado. And then we'll have our council members, Representative Catherine Harrigan.
Yeah, I'm Steve Maldonado. I work, I have hands-on experience at the club. I work door personnel and grounds property. It's a very tight operation. Like two speakers ago mentioned, we had different nationalities. We had 3 guys come from the Republic of Uganda. We always remember about Uganda from the movies, you know. These nice-looking guys, you know, they're dressed real nice. We had 4 girls. This past Saturday, we had 4 girls from the Republic of Germany. And it's a tourist stop, and it's on the far edge, you might say, of Hollywood, but it's a historical. I guess Marilyn Monroe's first marriage was at the Florentine Gardens. And besides all that, the one thing I wanted to mention is, as the night ends, each operating dance night, we send 2, 3, 4 employees around the square block to clean up everything. Be it flyers of the other club, be it flyers from Tommy's Burgers, be it trash from Tommy's Burgers, be it the back street, and they go all the way around. On different occasions, 1 or 2 of those employees carry a radio. They see something afoul on Carlos Avenue, Gower Street to the east. What would it be? Bronson? They radio. And we would try to get appropriate LAPD response, or we like to handle it ourselves. You know what I mean? It's somebody was stumbled on the floor, somebody tripped, boy, girl arguing too loud, and we try to settle that within the square block, and that's very nice. I can't think of any clubs, maybe you cannot, sir, doing that over in Hollywood or LA and stuff like that. They just walk around and they clean up the whole thing, and they're very observant. And the club's very fun, and it was redesigned inside, and we card for all legitimate government IDs, and we turn away our share of people who just do not qualify to enter the premises where there be alcohol. And we run a tight shift right there, and that's all I wanted to say, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Maldonado. Thank you. Okay, our last speaker is the council office.
Good afternoon, Catherine Hennigan on behalf of Council President Eric Garcetti. I don't think there is a question as to the importance of Florentine Gardens. Our office sees that. We feel very fortunate to have Kenneth McKenzie as a stakeholder in Hollywood. And for those reasons, we were able to come up with a compromise on the 6 conditions that we're fine with. I gave you guys a printout. The 3 conditions we can't, and we wouldn't for anybody else as well, is support 6 a.m. as you heard the officer attest to. We just don't have the manpower, and it's a public safety concern. Second, the all ages, we would not support that for any applicant that is a nightclub. So We support LAPD's recommendations. The planning department, we did quite a few meetings to come to this resolution, and if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Well, do you have in writing exactly which conditions you're supporting?
Yeah.
And which ones you are not?
Yes, and I handed it to Patrice. The items that we were able to come to an agreement on are lettered A through F, and it's condition 1, 4, 5, 6, 18, and 19 with the proposed change. And then the conditions that we would ask you to deny would be condition 4, 5, and 6.
So we deny 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Based on input from the officer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The notion that other clubs are able to operate and this group is not being allowed, how do we respond to that?
Well, the 2 to 3 clubs, and Mike can attest to this as well, have CUPs predating even, I think, the CUP process. So they kind of have grandfathered rights. If any other establishment, or if they were to expand those clubs and it triggered a discretionary action, we would not support 24 hours or 6 a.m.
So in other words, the other organizations that are allowed to behave a certain way, that was given before Councilman Garcetti's time in office.
Yes.
And therefore, the city at that time allowed them to conduct the business in a manner that unfortunately is not being applied to Mr. McKenzie because of the discretion today.
Yes, and actually to that point, 4 a.m. is even really difficult for us, but we did work with the planning department, LAPD, and we have supported a couple other establishments at 4 a.m. as long as they're a bona fide restaurant, have full food service where people can go after most of the clubs close at 2 and can go dance or eat more so they sober up and don't drink and drive.
What resonates with me is the assertion that because it's a Latino group, Latino-owned business, that they're being treated differently and unfairly. And again, I'm probably saying the same thing in 3 different ways, but if these other organizations were in front of Mr. Councilman Garcetti, they would receive the same discretion. It's just not because of the arrangements and agreements before his presence as a councilman that you have this differentiation. It's not because Mr. McKenzie and the Latinos are being pointed out for being Latino.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just, because I think that's, in this environment that we have today, that we are very clear what our discretion is like given the legalities of this process. And so I just want to make sure I reinforce that.
And through our several meetings, the issue was brought up, and we really tried to, assure that we really don't look at that at all. So it's a historical place. We see that, we support it, we want it to do well, and we've come to these compromises.
Councilor Gregorian, any questions or observations?
I want to make sure that I'm clear on what your recommendation is. So of the zoning, of the planning department's conditions, you are disagreeing with the proposed amendment to condition number 5 to change the time to 6, but you're okay with 4 a.m.
Yes.
On condition number 6, it's the amendment, you're okay with the amendment to allow the entry until midnight?
Yes. It's a residential community, so I think that's why the condition was placed there from the beginning. But they have really proven that they have a lot of security and good practice, neighborhood practices, so we feel comfortable with extending those hours.
Okay, and then you mentioned rejecting condition 4, but actually it's condition 4 from the previous case would be amended so that under 18 to 7 p.m. only.
Yes.
Okay.
for weddings and et cetera.
But it wouldn't be limited to special events like that. It would just be any night that they're open, under 18 would be admitted until 7
Oh,
p.m.
yeah, I believe that's the way it is currently. So yes, we're fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to have our zoning administrator, or staff come on up. And for the record, if we can clarify what is in front of us, and that way we could take appropriate action based on the recommendations. I put a lot of weight on what our officers see and how they are trying their best to manage the public safety, especially in areas where we have high densities caused by all the different magnets that exist in Hollywood. And that being said, if we can hear from you, sir, what is in front of us, and then we can take our vote.
Michael LeGrand, Department of City Planning. What's before you is an appeal of a plan approval application. And so what you would be doing if the action that I assume you're going to be taking would be to grant the appeal in part and deny it in part, since we are proposing to or recommending that this committee kind of basically takes two actions. Some of them would be to amend existing conditions and retain other conditions. We're in agreement with the council office. The only point of clarity I want to bring up and make sure Councilman Garcetti's office agrees is that the under 18 crowd would be allowed until 7 p.m. even for special events. Then after 7 p.m. the venue would have to clear out all patrons and then readmit people that are 18 and over. They're currently not allowed to have anyone under the age of 18 there. And I believe that's their current condition from 1986. So that actually is a change to allow them to go to 7 p.m. The applicant wanted to have it more liberal than that, and we disagreed, as well as LAPD and the council office. But the point of clarity would be that it is changing from not allowing anyone under 18 to allowing them until 7 p.m.
Okay. And that includes all the conditions with the hours and everything else.
Correct. And the other conditions, condition number 1, we were fine with removing that. It's in terms of the letter that's provided by the council office. I reviewed it, and we're in agreement to those conditions.
Okay. All right. Well, then I would move that we grant in part and deny in part, as stated by our planning staff, and with the appeal filed by County McKenzie, Lee Rabin as representatives relative to the determination of the zoning administrator in finding that the operation of business known as Florentine Gardens, located in 5951 Hollywood Boulevard, has had limited compliance and has modified, retained, or added to previously imposed conditions. That will be the action. Thank you, sir. So that'll be action of this committee. Okay, so let's just kind of plow through the agenda. What's next, Roberto?
I believe we could go back to item 3, Councilman, which is the report from planning relative to the a proposed citywide ordinance to contain abandoned shopping carts modeled after the city of Glendale.
Okay. The shopping cart case. All right. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Tom Rothman from the Planning Department. I'm here today to report back to the committee on recommendations to implement a citywide shopping cart containment program. Abandoned shopping carts are a source of blight throughout the city. They block vehicular and pedestrian access. As such, the City Council directed the Planning Department to prepare an ordinance to prohibit them based upon a Glendale model that was implemented in 2006. The Glendale program requires stores with 6 or more shopping carts to contain them on their property. Although no particular system is mandated, 100% containment is required. Glendale monitors the effectiveness of the system through an annual inspection fee, and any abandoned carts are fined on a per cart per day basis. After adoption, there was a 12-month grace period and education period for compliance with all new containment regulations. Currently, there is a 100% success rate with all of Glendale's 41 participating stores. After consultation with the city administrative officer and the bureaus of sanitation and street services, the planning department estimates that a citywide containment program of all new and existing stores would cost approximately $2.7 million, not the $3.9 that was in the staff report given to you. For the record, we would like to make that correction now. As an alternative approach, we also evaluated the feasibility of an ordinance for only new construction at a minimal cost to the city. To apply the Glendale model to Los Angeles, the Bureau of Street Services would inspect and monitor and issue violations, while sanitation would collect abandoned carts and notify merchants for retrieval. The program would be financed similar to the Bulky Items program, where participating stores are assessed a fee. In short, a zoning ordinance would impose an operating standard, and the Bureaus of Sanitation and Street Services would coordinate a fee study and implement the program. So today, the task force recommends that Plum direct the planning department to either draft an ordinance that imposes cart containment for all new and existing stores with 6 or more shopping carts, or draft an ordinance that imposes cart containment for only new stores.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman, any questions?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the new construction distinction? What would trigger that? Are you talking about strictly limiting it to brand new stores that didn't pre-exist, or if a store is, for example, being remodeled, or how would that?
Well, it would be for new stores or major remodels. So it would be like any change in the zoning code. It wouldn't apply to things that are already existing, but everything that's new that comes in to the building department, we would probably have to change the applications of for building permits to require merchants to itemize how many shopping carts they intend to have. So if they checked off 6 or more shopping carts, then a development standard that we would write into the zoning code would apply. And if we didn't go that way, we would go for all stores, then there would be a grace period for all stores to come into compliance.
Which did Glendale do?
Glendale did all stores. They had 41, and they had 12 months to educate all merchants, and they have 100% compliance now.
And were there any distinctions made based on, is the only size limitation was the 6 cart threshold?
6 shopping carts, right.
So regardless of the size of the store, if you have more than, okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. I think that report has been fairly clear, and I want to thank the departments, Bureau of Sanitation and Planning, for hard work. What we'll do is we'll go through the yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay, so let's go through the cards, and then we'll go from there. We have with us Maya Zettler, Matthew Dodson, Ann Williams, and Electra Kruger. Please.
Thank you.
You got 2 minutes. Keep eye on the clock. Give us your name and address.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Good afternoon. Maya Zettler from VICA, Valley Industry and Commerce Association, here representing over 350 businesses in the San Fernando Valley region with over 50,000 employees. VICA is here today to express strong concern for this motion. We are here on behalf of the business community to raise serious concerns about mandating a citywide ordinance. The city's primary goal should be to create more jobs and support more grocery stores in underserved areas throughout the city of Los Angeles. Additional costs and regulations will simply hurt the process of creating and keeping jobs within the city boundaries and providing healthy food options for all Angelenos. Businesses share the same goal as the city does, which is to support communities with healthy food options free of blight. Most retailers have been addressing this issue and have been implementing creative solutions to help resolve the proliferation of abandoned shopping carts. These retailers also have a stake in their communities, and they have made every effort to address issues of blight. We are concerned that a citywide ordinance would have huge negative economic impacts. Grocers within the city want to expand further, but we don't want this ordinance to stifle their growth. We encourage this committee to support efforts by the grocery stores and the retailers to curtail this serious problem. However, without implementing a citywide ordinance, that would force these retailers to expend valuable resources in areas where it may not be necessary. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Matthew Dodson. I'm here representing the California Grocers Association. We're a statewide trade association that represents both large grocery stores and small chain stores, mom and pop stores. About 350 of those are actually located in the city of Los Angeles. We have had extensive discussions over the last year with the author's office on this, and we feel comfortable that we're moving in the right direction towards an ordinance that is moderate in scope and deals with what we all acknowledge to be, in certain neighborhoods, a very serious problem with abandoned carts being found out in public areas. What we want to ensure is that the ultimate ordinance that is passed is something that addresses those problem areas, because we all know that in certain neighborhoods of the city there really is not an abandoned cart problem. In other areas it's quite extensive. So I think the key part is addressing this issue in a way that we can get to those problem areas while not burdening those individual grocery stores that don't have a problem out there. So, you know, in the coming months, we hope to be able to have lots of discussions with the council members to discuss any questions you may have on that. Another point that I want to make is for the last 20 years or so, there are certain neighborhoods in this city that do not have enough grocery stores. In the last couple of years, the grocery industry has been working with neighborhood organizations in South LA to try to build what we considered a very ambitious goal of 5 grocery stores over the next 5 years. We don't want to place additional burdens that would prevent new grocery stores from going into some of the underserved areas of the city. So what I'm saying is ultimately, yes, there is a problem in certain neighborhoods. Let's deal with that and address those problem areas and allow the industry to thrive.
Okay, we have a lot to talk about, but there's a lot of folks speaking, and I think you and I should have a conversation later. Thank you. Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Williams from the Central City Association, representing 450 businesses employing over 350,000 people. On behalf of our grocery store members, I'm here to respectfully remind the committee that the vast majority of businesses that provide shopping carts as a courtesy to customers act responsibly and make every effort to contain the carts on their own property. Businesses that provide shopping carts have a stake in the communities that they serve. They want the same thing that the council members are trying to achieve with this effort, which is healthy communities free of blight brought about by abandoned shopping carts. Many retailers have already addressed this problem by contracting with shopping cart recovery services to ensure that carts are not left in the neighborhoods. Please do not mandate any particular method of addressing the problem, since the problem and therefore the solutions must be addressed on a store-by-store basis. In addition, businesses are the victims of theft when people take shopping carts off the premises. And it would be misguided for this City Council to penalize responsible businesses by enacting sweeping ordinances or costly regulatory schemes that punish businesses that are already working in good faith to keep carts off of public streets. Thank you.
I appreciate what you just said, but I have this, and I'm biting my tongue here, but the plight of the transit dependent, the folks who are suffering due to economic crisis, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Next speaker, thank you. Okay.
Yes, my name is Electra Kruger. I'm the current president of the Shadow Hills Property Owners Association, 10544 Mahoney Drive in Shadow Hills. The Council District 6 operated a 5-month abandoned shopping cart removal pilot program in 2007. In that period of time, 6,880 abandoned shopping carts were retrieved from 128 stores. So that gives you a real picture of the kind of level of blight that these abandoned shopping carts are placing on the city. So we do have to initiate an on-site cart containment ordinance. The Los Angeles Planning Department has recommended an alternative ordinance to that is established by the City of Glendale, whose ordinance does require on-site containment for all stores that would only make new developments and major remodel projects in Los Angeles subject to a requirement to install on-site containment systems as a condition of their approval. But why even bother with that? Because if you keep in mind the almost 7,000 carts that were retrieved in Council District 6, in that 5-year period from existing stores. So you have to go with a 100% containment system that is imposed on all stores, or you will never get a containment of that blight that's on the city. The emphasis of the program, once it is established, has to be on 100% containment and not on a retrieval option type of program, and that is to hold the cost to the city of implementing that program to a minimum. And in the long term, a cart containment program would also be less costly to merchants. Shopping carts are not cheap. A cost containment program would reduce the loss of cart inventory and reduce the cost of maintaining a cart retrieval service, which is a service known to be abused. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Armando Herman.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Armando Herman. I hate to bring this to your attention, but just hearing what's going on, Mr. Reyes, you know that the recession is not a way to collect money or fine people and then try to improve quality of life issues. When it comes down to these shopping carts and penalizing stores that are trying to, provide and bring themselves closer to the community so we can attend to, don't you think there's a better way the city can come up with ideas that's more comprehensive to help these people come up with a better idea than to make an ordinance that's not needed? It's bad enough the city doesn't enforce ordinances to collect. And that's part of the reason why this recession hits City Hall so hard. So if we plan to create new ordinances that don't work based on the old ones that never worked, let's come to the reality. Stop being so strict with people who are trying to make a living, trying to provide for the community a better access of having equipment to use. Because this idea is not worth the time and effort for you to sit there and just say, okay. Take some time and think about this matter. Think about how it's affecting the people in the community. Think about the way it's affecting these businesses that are in the community. Because if there's any real concern, Mayor Villaraigosa wouldn't say the recession wasn't going to impact us like it has today. Today we would all not worry about the furloughs that impact us today. So the same thing might happen and interfere with the people who are speaking here to receive and not be penalized based on these ideas that you're coming up with a new ordinance. So I speak on their behalf, and I wish you would really stop this, pull it to the side, and take it into consideration on another motion to be discussed in a public forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman District Representative, Mr. Jose Conejo. And how long have you been, or your office been working on this, and this did not happen overnight, correct? Just for the record, given statements being made.
The original motion for the, we did the motion for the pilot program in 2006, in early 2006, end of 2005. But it's an issue that we've been working on probably a little longer than that before we put it together. As the representative from the Shadow Hills Neighborhood Association said, that we did do a 5-month program. In our district alone, we collected nearly 7,000 shopping carts, 6,880 of them. Council members, I think we've gone through this process with both the Grocers Association and neighborhoods and planning and sanitation on quite a few versions of this. And one of the things that we were conscious of was to make sure that the businesses were not negatively impacted out front. Most of these shopping carts are being taken in low-income poor communities. And it's those communities that have been impacted the most by these shopping carts. The reason we got involved in looking at this was because kids were using them as go-karts in the washes and just taking them and riding down with them. And we were concerned about, one, the children being hurt, but secondly, how they block up water and storm drains. So that's really how we got started on it. But I think we are now in agreement that we need to take two paths to this. The first path has to be the new construction and putting forth that they have to have a containment system. And the reason for saying a containment system, we're going to let them determine. We don't want to be prescriptive to say you have to have wheel locks, you have to have, you fill in the technology that may be created or that is being created in this process. But they tell the city how they're going to do it, how they're going to contain it. Some stores may say that their containment system is that they will have retrieval within 5 hours. Whatever that standard they comes up with, as long as it meets our goal, I think we ought to give them the opportunity. So that's the first path. The second path is to do the study, to be able to see how many stores there is out there and how many shopping carts each of them have. Again, this is the opportunity for the city to say to existing businesses, one, I'd like to say it's a fair warning. We're going to do something. Here's how we're going to start to do it. So I think that's where we are today, and we are in agreement that that's the way we should move forward. We will work to try to identify the $125,000 that it would take to do this study so that we can create a system and mechanism for the rest of the stores in the city. And we ask you to move this motion forward.
Mr. Mayor, any questions from my colleague on this? So the recommendations that we'd like to put forth would be, one, to request the city attorney to prepare and present a citywide ordinance in consultation with the planning department to prohibit the proliferation of abandoned shopping carts for only new developments and major remodels. Two, instruct the Bureau of Sanitation in consultation with the CAO and the planning department to prepare an abandoned shopping cart fee study to determine the feasibility of enacting an ordinance that will apply to existing businesses with analysis of the following: A, total number of merchants that would qualify for the program; B, a nexus explanation for the fee proposed; C, the purpose of the program; D, the services the program provides; and E, the repayment schedule based on the assessed fee. So have a second on that?
Yeah, at this point, I will be happy to second that. I am concerned about some of the statements that have been made about impacts on businesses and the ability to expand grocery availability, especially in poorer communities, and what negative impacts this may have on that. So I think as we go forward, it's going to be very important to me to make sure that some of those concerns are addressed, that we work closely with the Grocers Association and others to make sure that we have a workable program that addresses the underlying blight problem, but also has it is practical, pragmatic, and doesn't have undue adverse impacts on those, especially smaller businesses. So with that, I'll be happy to second the recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So that will be the action of this committee. And because I might lose quorum, we move to item 13. And then from there, we'll take on the rest of the agenda. So, can I have the staff presentation, please?
Sure. President Reyes, Councilmember Krikorian, my name is Daniel Scott, City Planning Department. The City Planning Commission met on this item over 5 times during calendar year 2009. They struggled mightily with the impacts of the project, which is the Bradley landfill. And in December of 2009, they disapproved the conditional use to permit a recycling materials sorting facility in the M and MR2 zones. They disapproved the variance to permit the operation of a solid waste transfer station in the M zone. They disapproved the variance to permit the operation of a wood, green material chipping and grinding facility, and they disapproved the site plan review and disapproved the environmental impact report. Basically, the commission felt that the project would not be desirable to the public convenience or welfare due to the air quality impacts. The commission stated that the project would not be proper in relationship to adjacent uses because of the proximity to residential uses, and the project would be materially detrimental to the immediate neighborhood. In addition, the commission could not make any of the variance findings in the affirmative for the green waste and chipping and grinding facility. Thank you.
All right. Anything else to add from staff?
Not at this time, Councilman.
Okay, so let's hear from our appellants. And we'll probably do is this, because there's so many cards on this issue, and I'm a little pressed for time because we have other committees that need to be started, and according to the city attorney, Councilman Corcoran would have to be here for the whole session to make the decision.
Well, yes, normally when there's a public hearing, you need to hear all the testimony.
So, okay. We're trying to fit it out at one time here, folks. I apologize.
Well, a suggestion, Councilman. You might ask if each of the sides have representatives, because it looks like there's a lot of folks here and they may have repetitive comments. That might be a solution.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. I would limit, ideally I would like to give each side 15 minutes, but because of time, give each side 10 minutes. Give us your discussion, so the appellants can give us a 10-minute presentation of the major points you need to make, and I would ask the opposing side to give 10 minutes of their position, and then we'll go back to questions to the staff and then make a decision. So why don't we do that? We'll have the appellants come forward, and I would ask if those who are supporting your position, sir, if they would want to stand, so that way they're recognized. Okay. And if you can make your statement, give us your name, and thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Doug Corcoran. I work for Waste Management, and thank you, Councilman Krikorian, and before I get started, what I'd like to do is make sure I acknowledge your staff, the staff that's worked tremendously hard on this project through the years. It's a long project. They do a great job. You see, I think the city gets kind of pounded in the press a lot, but I'd stack up the staff of the city against anybody in the world, so I do want to make sure I say that. Waste Management has been a major employer and a part of the Sun Valley community for more than 35 years. For the last 9 years, we've been working on the project that's before you today, which is the Sun Valley Recycling Park. In those 9 years, we've achieved levels of community outreach and community input that I think I can safely say no other project in LA has reached, and that includes Playa Vista and the LAX expansion projects, which were huge. We've held literally hundreds of meetings with the community, including 50 of them, approximately 50, with the Community Advisory Committee that was established by Council District 6 and met consistently every month for many, many years. About this project. Over 31,000 addresses received the notice of preparation for this project and other subsequent mailings. The list goes on, but I won't go into it. We'll send you something that has the whole list of things that we did, but it's huge. It wasn't time wasted, however. The outreach and community input has led to many improvements in this project from what we first considered. And I'll tell you why. We first looked at this project back 9 years ago as a 3-sided building. And we immediately heard from the community that that was not going to be the way they were going to accept anything going forward. So we began working on what we could do about that. And let me just go through a couple of the things that we've done, or it's a list of things that we've done in response to community input and the involvement that we've had with the community. Went from 3-sided to 4-sided. It's not only four-sided and fully enclosed, but it has a negative air pressure system in there, which means that no air will leave out of the doors that go in and out. Air is going to be pulled into the building. What that does is that controls odor and dust. Once it gets in there, it'll be kind of exhausted out the top of the building, but it will go through an entire comprehensive mister system that will knock out all the dust, all the odors, all the particulates. Essentially, nobody is going to be able to smell or even be aware that this facility is operating and handling waste and recyclables unless you're inside, and we will take people on tours of that. It's LEED Gold facility. That's the first of its kind in the city of LA. The negative air pressure is the first of its kind in the city of LA. And basically dust, odors, and noise will be controlled at every point of operation. We have established designated haul routes to make sure that the trucks accessing this facility will only come and go according to certain routes so that they stay out of the neighborhoods. We do not want these trucks going into residential neighborhoods. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that that doesn't happen. Much needed traffic and road improvements. Up to 6 intersections will be improved because of this project. Without this project, those intersections stay in the sorry state they're in right now. The facility is a quantum leap forward in aesthetic improvements in the Sun Valley area. Not only we have this beautiful building that we're proposing, it's going to be surrounded with water-efficient landscaping, including 221 new trees, and it's just absolutely going to be, I think, a showcase for the community. We are committed, after, like I said, many meetings with the community, committed to the absolute pinnacle of compliance with CARB and South Coast Air Quality Management District where it comes to emissions from our fleets and any equipment. And in addition to that, we're offering fee concessions, and there's also a host fee that will be explained in a little bit more detail later, that are terrific incentives for independent haulers to switch their fleets over to these clean vehicles and to thereby further enhance the air quality in the area. The host fee, like I said, somebody else will come up, Dale Goldsmith will come up and explain. It's a $30 to $40 million commitment of capital investment in Sun Valley, and I can't remember the last time anybody's offered something like that up. I think probably since GM left the valley. That's the last time you saw that kind of commitment locally. But that commitment means jobs. It means construction jobs. It means steady, permanent operations jobs. We are committed, and it's in the conditions, to give priority to local firms and local residents. That's what we want to do. We want to be as local as we can. We've been there, like I said, for 30-some-odd years. Facility will generate over $30 million a year in the local economy. And we believe it serves as a template or an example that can hold other facilities, and there are quite a few of them in the city of LA and quite a few in Sun Valley, to a higher standard of operation. And I think that the rest will follow once we get it going there. There's a few people in Sun Valley who are just kind of determined to call Sun Valley the dumping ground for LA. I don't know why somebody would want to cling to such a negative impression for their own community. It kind of bothers me. I mean, I spend most of my waking hours working right there, and I don't like to hear that. I'm hoping that what can happen is this committee, those folks, and everybody will be able to see Sun Valley Recycling Park the way we see it, which is a springboard to turn Sun Valley into Los Angeles' center for sustainable and green business. So I thank you very much for the time, and I'm going to give it off to Dale.
Good afternoon, Honorable Commissioners. My name is Dale Goldsmith. I'm a partner with the law firm of Armbruster, Goldsmith & Delvac, 10940 Wilshire Boulevard, 21st floor, Los Angeles, representing the appellant and applicant, Waste Management. I'd like to talk briefly about the environmental impact report. The city prepared a comprehensive EIR for this project. It's many inches thick. I couldn't even get it in my briefcase, so I'll summarize it for you. The EIR only concluded that the project would only result in one operational impact, and that operational impact is an air quality impact with respect to only one of the emission categories, and that's NOx, or oxides of nitrogen. All the other categories were less than significant. I want to put that impact into context, though. The significance determination was made based on an application of the criteria established by the SCA-QMD. That criteria is not intended to gauge health effects of air emissions, but rather bring the entire air basin into compliance with state and federal regulations. The those standards are purposely set low to trigger mitigation. Most even modest-sized projects trigger such an impact, and you've seen many projects before you previously that have such impacts. The true measure of whether a project will result in health risks is a detailed health risk assessment. The EIR includes such assessment, and based on some very conservative assumptions, for example, that residents would be outdoors for 7 years, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, breathing in the emissions, even with those very conservative assumptions, the EIR concluded that the project would not result in any significant adverse human health impacts. And we have experts here today who could go into detail regarding those studies. It's important also to keep in mind that if this project is disapproved, the impacts won't go away. There are a number of other waste facilities that are in the area, and the waste is not a function of facilities, but really the waste that you and I and everybody in this room generates. So people are going to have to deposit their trash, and if it's not deposited in this new state-of-the-art clean LEED Gold facility, it'll be deposited in one of the low-tech facilities that are currently in there, and there will be therefore greater impacts. Nonetheless, the project is going to address the air quality impacts in a number of ways. First, all of Waste Management's trucks will be clean trucks that will meet or exceed CARB requirements. Secondly, vehicles accessing the Greeter Wood Waste Facility are City of Los Angeles trucks. Those are LNG trucks. Those are also clean trucks. Also, the trucks that Waste Management contracts for, the transfer trucks, will by contract all be forced to be and required to be clean trucks. Only 25% of the trucks assessing the facility will be independent contractors, and in order to incentivize those contractors to have clean trucks, Waste Management is implementing an innovative and precedent-setting host fee that will require higher fees for less clean trucks and the lowest fees for clean trucks. The Planning Commission had expressed concern that condition would not be enforceable, and that was, I think, part of the reason for denial. Since the Commission meeting, we've worked closely with the Council Office and also with the City Attorney, and we concur that the fee is fully enforceable because we've tweaked the language, we've narrowed the focus, and we've beefed up the findings. Just to remove any doubt, however, the Waste Management is willing to record a covenant that runs with the land saying that they will comply with the fee and waive any right to contest, that will be recorded, that will run with the land, and will be binding all future owners and operators of the facility. Finally, I submitted a letter today rebutting point-by-point some of the arguments made in a recent letter by 1LA. I would be pleased to respond in detail to any of those responses, any of those allegations, and elaborate my responses should you so desire. Thank you for your consideration.
The one question I do have is, in having a waste processing station that's unenclosed for the green and wood waste, why is it unenclosed? Why can't it be enclosed?
The site is located on essentially trash. This is a landfill site. The trash was deposited and it settles. It's not stable. In order to meet the building and safety seismic standards and enclose the facility, you'd have to sink massive piers very deep into the trash till you got down to bedrock. That would be prohibitively expensive.
Okay. And that would be the only methodology that could be used, or no other approaches and enclosures?
Not that we talked to Building and Safety, and they have advised us that they would require that any enclosure to meet current seismic standards. We are in California, they're quite stringent. Perhaps elsewhere there might be other opportunities to use different technologies, but here in California, earthquake country, we need to abide by the stringent seismic codes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the gentleman? No. All right, thank you very much. And now I'd like to hear from the other side, and who will be speaking for the side. And can you please give us your name and maybe the folks who are supporting the opposing perspective and their opinion?
Sorry.
Oh, I have the opposition. Okay, let's hear from the opposition. And we're giving you 10 minutes. If we can have the folks who are in line with the opposition, if we can stand so we can see who they are. Thank you very much. Now, we'll be giving you 10 minutes. And I'm assuming you'll be speaking, or how are we going to divide the 10 minutes?
Can I have 1 minute just to make sure we've clarified that?
All right. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's tough. Given the number of families that have come out to speak, it's tough for us to pare it down to 10 minutes. So,
Well, let's do this, and I want to keep this fair. I was just informed that Councilor Krikorian is very accommodating in making sure we address this issue for its significance that it is, and is willing to stay with us longer than we anticipated. So we'll give you the 10 minutes. Then we'll have whatever assertions you raise, a rebuttal time, and we'll give them 5 minutes, and we'll come back to you for 5 minutes. So we'll keep it to the original 15 minutes, because I don't want to curtail and or shortchange folks knowing how important this is. So, are you having any luck with the 10 minutes? Puedo decir en español, si gustan.
yeah, I think we can do that, and we appreciate. Yeah, we
So
appreciate your
we'll do 10
flexibility.
and 10, then 5 and 5.
Yes.
Okay, please.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Joshua Stalick. I'm an attorney at Neighborhood Legal Services, which is a nonprofit law firm in Pacoima that provides free legal services to low-income people in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. I'm here on behalf of Trudy Sapochnik, who's a 70-year-old resident of the Valley Village Mobile Home Park, less than 1 mile away from the Bradley landfill. I'm also here with 1LA and several other residents from the community. We'll speak to that. We share the City Planning Commission's serious concerns about the adverse impacts that this facility will have on Sun Valley, and we support the City Planning Commission's unanimous disapproval of the facility. The City Planning Commission held several hearings last year on the proposed facility and asked the Planning Department and Waste Management to report back on several of the environmental impacts that would result from the facility. And the Commission was willing to strike a reasonable agreement that addressed those impacts. As Commissioner Kezio said, quote, he wanted to strike a balance here, but Waste Management ultimately cut short that dialogue and refused in December to allow the Commission any additional time to consider the project. And the proposal before you, while it sounds like there are some changes since December that we have not been privy to or notified about, it does appear that a lot of those fundamental issues have not been addressed. In terms of the cleanup of the fleet, while we appreciate that some truck routing can provide an incremental improvement here, the overall effects of the 1,800 additional truck trips that will be coming through the community are still going to be there. In terms of the green waste coverage, Waste Management is arguing that as a matter of law, they have a right to do open-air green waste processing, and to double the amount they're currently doing from 1,200 to 2,500 tons per day. We think that's wrong as a matter of law and also a dangerous precedent to set for the city. And in terms of the enforceability of the tipping fees that have been proposed, it's Waste Management who throughout the process argued that the city did not have a legal basis to require that. So we're a little bit skeptical of this 11th hour change of heart. Moreover, fundamentally, Waste Management has refused to consider mitigations that would address the significant physical impacts that this project will have on the community in terms of a reduced scale facility, which would take less tonnage per day and thereby reduce the impacts in every environmental category across the board on the community, in terms of a reduced hours of operation, and finally in terms of the cumulative impacts that this project will have. The EIR has identified 29 other projects in the pipeline in the community that will have impacts, and that this would significantly contribute to the cumulative effect of all of those together.
We're on the clock, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that, to point out that this would be located in a neighborhood that the City Council has designated an environmental justice improvement district. And environmental justice here, we think, involves more than just financial mitigations. It requires looking at physical mitigations that would address the physical harms of this facility, and that tipping fees can't address the significant air, odor, and noise impacts that this project is going to have. So we urge the committee to look at the concern seriously and refuse to recommend the project until those impacts are addressed.
You felt that hard hand, right? Okay, can you pause the time, please? Okay, nos queda 6 minutos. We have 6 minutes left. And how many speakers do we have behind you? ¿Cuántos hay? 4. Okay, ahí seguimos, ojalá 1 minuto cada uno. Así uno tiene la capacidad de expresar lo que tiene que decir. So give yourselves 1 minute. Keep it on the clock. I've been a ¿verdad? ¿Lo ven? Okay, now, is it English or Spanish?
I'm going to speak in English.
Okay, good. Okay.
My name is Lupita Gonzalez, and I am representing Our Lady of the Holy Rosary Church with over 5,000 parishioners. And I have lived in the area of Sun Valley, North Hollywood for the past 40 years. And I'm very much affected by what is going with waste management, and I live in an environment that is very polluted. And we are suffering, our children as well, from many respiratory allergies and asthmas. I'm here to speak for all those who were unable to come here, and I do want to ask of you, please, Council Reyes, please do take in consideration as the suffering residents of Sun Valley. We are the ones who smell, and we are the ones who are tired of so much traffic, and we are tired of the environment that is so polluted. I'm in here not to speak for monies. I am here to speak for health, for life, for children, for the well-being of the residents of Sun Valley.
Gracias.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Isabel Mendoza y vivo por 15 años en la ciudad de Sun Valley.
Okay, we'll do this because translation
My name
takes
is Isabel
time.
Mendoza. I'm a resident of Sun Valley.
Let's do this. We got 4:47. Let's add 4 minutes for the translation. Yeah, so let's add 8 minutes and try to do it, what you got to say in 1 minute, but give time for the translation.
Gracias. Gracias por darnos la oportunidad de venir aquí. Yo soy una madre residente de Sun Valley, pertenezco a una organización llamada Comunidad en Acción.
Thank you very much for allowing us to be here. I live in Sun Valley. I'm a resident of Sun Valley, and I'm also a mother, and I belong to an organization called
¿Cómo se llama su organización? Comunidad en Acción.
Community in Action.
Y estamos preocupados por el nuevo reabrimiento del Bradley Transline, y nosotros no queremos que se abra porque aparte que sería un impacto ambiental, sería también.
We're very concerned about the Bradley landfill project and all the traffic that is going to come into the community. We know we're going to be impacted not only by the traffic but also.
Sería el tráfico diario, que serían más de 1,800 camiones porque trabajaría las 24 horas al día.
We're not only going to be impacted by the number of truck trips, which are going to entail about 1,800 daily truck trips, 24 hours a day.
A mí me afectaría porque yo vivo exactamente detrás de lo que sería el basurero de nuevo.
I will be directly impacted because I live exactly behind where the new landfill will be built, or the new transportation will be built.
Gracias, señora. Gracias. Hay más personas que quieren hablar.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Next one. Gracias. Come on up. English or Spanish?
English.
Keep an eye on the clock. 1 minute.
Okay. Hi, my name is Maria. I was born in Sun Valley and raised. I have a question for you council members. Would you guys be in favor of this proposal if this was in your community?
Go ahead.
If I am very concerned about my community's planification decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. My name is Richard Zanotti. I'm pastor of Our Lady of the Holy Rosary Church in Sun Valley, and I just wanted to focus on the cumulative effect of granting this permit. We can't not look at the permit in isolation. And I just, if you could give your attention to the handouts that were given out, you'll see maps there indicating all of the polluting industries and companies that are located in Sun Valley. We have many inactive landfills, as well as all of these noxious companies and industries that do business in Sun Valley. We've been highly impacted by all of this over many years, and I think we need to, we ask you to consider that, and to consider that at least if Waste Management would reconsider the enclosing of the green waste and the scope and the capacity of the facility, the amount of garbage that will be taken in. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Mike O'Gara. I'm with the Sun Valley Area Neighborhood Council, but I'm speaking as a resident. For 35 years, I've lived at 9301 Cayuga Avenue. Okay. This applicant should not be allowed to increase the amount of green waste processed unless they enclose the green waste facility. This is doable. You could ask Michael Wolchik of the State Department of Resources and Recycling. There's 2 Home Depots in Northern California built on waste landfills. Waste Management should be restricted to their present allocation of 1,250 tons per day of green waste. Waste Management has a fleet of 200 LNG collection trucks at their facility in Irvine. In Sun Valley, they have 14 in their fleet. The rest, these carb trucks burn diesel fuel. According to the California Air Resources Board, 11,000 people will die prematurely in the state of California in the next 10 years because of diesel fuel exhaust. Diesel fuel will cause 320,000 cases of asthma-related and other lower respiratory symptoms. There will be 1,900,000 lost days of work with a cost of tens of billions of dollars in the state in the next 10 years.
Thank you, sir.
Where's the social justice in this? Where is the environmental justice that we need in Sun Valley?
Thank you very much. And the only reason I cut you out because we got down to the minutes with the translation. So thank you very much. Okay, we have 5 minutes for rebuttal. We'll say then we'll have 5 minutes for the next slide.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. Once again, for the record, Dale Goldsmith, Armbruster and Goldsmith and Delvac. Regarding the allegation that a reduced facility would provide terrific environmental benefits, that's just not borne out by the EIR. The EIR did consider a reduced intensity alternative of 25%. That reduced project would still result in a significant air quality impact. Again, that's the only long-term impact. And indeed, a 80% reduction would not reduce that impact to less than significant because the bar is set very, very low, as I alluded to before. With respect to cumulative impacts, Mr. Stellick and Father Zanotti both alluded to that. The EIR includes a very extensive analysis of cumulative impacts and concludes that, with the exception of air quality, there are no significant cumulative impacts. I would agree with Father Zanotti that you can't view this in a vacuum. This project does need to be considered in the greater context, but I think that I come away with a very different message when I make that comparison. This project will set the bar higher. This project will inspire other projects to do the right thing, to enclose their facilities, to make a big investment, and it will be a departure from a business as usual with respect to the industrial uses in the Sun Valley area and indeed the greater Los Angeles area. So we think that the cumulative impact from that perspective is very, very good. The EIR concludes that other than air quality, there are no significant impacts. Regarding traffic, the EIR concludes that there are no significant traffic impacts with the mitigation measures. And in addition, the trucks will be routed onto a preferred route. We would be open to any suggestions that you may have to try to make sure that those trucks do stay on those routes. We're going to have education, we're going to have directional signage, we're going to have contractual provisions, but we're open to anything else that you may be inclined to suggest. Regarding the argument that Waste Management disagreed that the host fee condition was enforceable, nothing could be further from the truth. I always believed, and I've stated before the Planning Commission, that we believed it was enforceable whether or not there's a nexus. But in working with the City Attorney's Office, we've crafted the findings, we've directed the funding of the host fee to address some of the potentially negative impacts associated with air quality in the region, and the City Attorney and I agree that there is a nexus. I didn't think we needed it to be enforceable in any event. In any event, as I mentioned before, there'll be a waiver, a covenant running with the land that will, I think, remove any doubt whatsoever that the community will not get the benefits of this host fee. Regarding concerns about noise, the EIR includes a extensive noise analysis and concludes there will not be any significant noise impacts. Any operations that occur in the evening, and that will just be sorting, will be indoors, and as conditioned, the doors will have to be closed. The EIR concludes that the noise from that facility, because it being enclosed, will not be audible at the property line, much less the sensitive receptors. Regarding the trucks at this facility, yes, it's true there are some trucks that are liquid natural gas, but all of Waste Management's fleet have been retrofitted so that they're CARB compliant. That reduces the diesel particulate matter by between 81 and 85%. They're clean trucks, and they're clean trucks in advance of the state mandated schedule. Waste Management, we believe, has done the right thing. With that, I'm open to any questions you may have, and if not, we would just respectfully request that you grant the appeal and approve the project.
I do have a couple of questions. One is the one that lingers out there in my mind is the assertion that there is now a new understanding and a new, or can I say this, a more cooperative relationship with the city and making sure that the enforcement of how the facility will operate in terms of the trucks and the vehicles coming in, and that it will be more enforceable now that it is enforceable. What changed? What was there new language? Maybe the city attorney can help me here. What was the difference? What created that capacity to implement?
Well, I think it was your city attorneys bringing their creativity and legal acumen to bear. We worked on, the original condition was kind of we would put the money into a fund that would be used for whatever purpose.
It's not for whatever purpose, it's community benefit, right?
For community benefit, but the community benefits were not specified. So we've tried to narrow that down to tie it into the project impacts. For example, the funds can be used to subsidize prescription drugs at nonprofit clinics. It could be used for environmental education. It could be used for roadway repairs or additional studies. It could even be used to retrofit some of the trucks out there that are driving around right now.
But how does that answer the question in terms of being able to enforce?
Well, at the risk of getting technical, and I am a lawyer, so if I get in over my head, please tell me. There needs to, in order for the city attorney took the position that in order for the condition to be enforceable, there'd have to be a nexus or a logical connection between the project and adverse impact of the project and the condition that that's supposed to remedy that adverse impact. As originally drafted, the city attorney didn't feel there was a tight enough connection. We've since tightened the language, we've tightened the findings, and the city attorney and I agree that it would pass judicial muster from a nexus. In addition, just to completely belt and suspenders it, the Civil Code allows for there to be an environmental mitigation covenant, and in this case, the impact is air quality, which is a potential hazardous material, the NOx emissions. We are going to record one of those types of covenant that's expressly authorized by the Civil Code, have it running with the land, and that will be enforceable as well. And that was something that the city attorney had suggested. We had not thought of that before, and I thought it was a really excellent idea.
Council, like to add, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes. Whenever we have conditions like these, we just work as hard as we can to make sure they're enforceable, because the last thing we want to do is to have a condition, to have people rely on it, and then find out that it's not enforceable.
So the vehicles that are independent, that are not under the enforcement of WM, how are they going to be responding to the concerns and the issues being raised by the community?
Well, I think what our office had done in consultation with the applicant is to tighten the uses of the money so that the host fees will be used to remediate the impacts of the project. However, there still is sufficient flexibility left in the condition so that the council office can tailor those to different needs as they arise. And I guess you'd have to ask the council office about specific uses that they might have for the money.
Okay.
One thing I'd also like to add, another thing that we did is I think we've also shown, and I'm submitting a letter from Doug Corcoran of Waste Management, that the break in the host fee will provide a powerful economic incentive for these third-party truckers to retrofit their trucks. As shown in the letter, and I'll pass that out in just a second, a trucker could earn back the initial cost of retrofit in as little as 6 months in terms of saved host fees. So anything beyond 6 months is money in their pocket. So as rational economic actors and business people, we think that it'll be a very easy decision for them to retrofit in order to get the break in the fees. And I'm submitting for the record a letter from Doug Corcoran showing some graphic analyses and calculations in that regard.
Do we have available the language that was essentially redrafted to emphasize the capacity for enforcement? Do we have that in front of us?
I've attached a copy of the covenant to my letter that I submitted today, and it's my understanding that Councilman Cardenas' office has the findings and the conditions that we've worked out with the council office and with the city attorney for submission to you today for adoption.
Okay, so I like to read that because I want to understand what is enforceable and how we propose to do that.
And again, I would call your attention to one of the attachments to my letter that I submitted today. It's a covenant that will be running with the land. The covenant provides that the Waste Management acknowledges that the fee condition is enforceable, and they waive any right that they may have, and I'm not conceding they even have one, because I think it'd be laughed out of court after appearing before you and then trying to deny that it's legal. But in case there's any doubt, Waste Management will waive its right to contest the fee and have that waiver run with the land to be binding on any future owners or operators of the facility. So we think this is buttoned up extremely tight, and indeed much more tight than any other condition that I've ever experienced in my career, and I've been doing this for a while.
Yes, I know. Okay. Councilmember? Any questions? Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much, sir, and then let's hear from the opposing side, and you got 5 minutes, and we want to be as thorough as possible and give everybody equal access to dealing with the issues.
I want to begin by quoting from a letter that I believe was submitted by Mr. Goldsmith, dated December 3rd, 2009, to the Planning Commission, and it says, quote, "There is no nexus to support the city's imposition of a host fee requirement." I just want to rebut Mr. Goldsmith's contention here that Waste Management was not the party that was vociferously and steadfastly arguing throughout the City Planning Commission process that the city did not have the legal authority to impose these tipping fees. And unfortunately, I don't have the benefit of seeing these.
Excuse me. Let me just ask you to pause for a second, because that's a strong assertion. I want to hear from the city attorney and how he will respond to that, because before we lose focus on that assertion.
So you'd like me to do that now?
Yes.
Yes, what he's alluding to is there are many hearings in front of the Planning Commission, and my advice to the Planning Commission was that when you have a condition, you need to have as tight a nexus as you can have, which is a logical connection between the impacts of the project and what the condition is going to address. And so as I recall, the use of the host fee money was rather open-ended, and so that's why I raised that issue. And so I believe that letter was written by Mr. Goldsmith, and I think, as I recall, his purpose in drafting that letter was to basically say, well, if there is no nexus, we're going to record this covenant, which will run with the land. I had issues with that covenant. I felt it would be best to have a nexus, and if they wanted to do the covenant on top of that, that would be fine. So this time around, we raised the issue again, and they have worked with our office to restrict the uses of the host fees so that there is a stronger nexus between the two. And they're still willing to record that covenant.
And so you feel, given how this dialogue has evolved.
Yes, I feel comfortable that there now is a nexus and that we would be comfortable defending that if it were challenged.
Okay. So I just wanted to capture that.
I unfortunately have not seen any of these or been privy to any of these documents, but it does sound like the intended uses were the same as those spelled out in the Planning Department's report in October. Expenditures from the appropriations from the fund may be made to pay for the environmental education, prescription drugs for respiratory-related ailments in consultation with the neighborhood council, and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure. It doesn't sound to me like the language around the nexus has changed much.
Okay. Because that's you're right.
So for what it's worth, in terms of a reduced scale facility, this is what the community has been asking for a long time, to really, for the planning department to really look seriously at a reduced size facility in terms of the tonnage per day, and that is to get at the significant and unavoidable air impacts that the EIR has identified. Unfortunately, in our opinion, the consideration of the reduced scale facility in the environmental impact report, which is alternative C, which does look at a 25% reduced facility, is very scanty. There's the reason given in the EIR why that's not an environmentally superior alternative is not that it wouldn't bring down the air impacts, but that the city needs the trash capacity here, and that if it's not here, trucks might have to travel further with trash through the air basin, which could have negative effects. So in our estimation, the final EIR really hasn't looked closely at the environmental benefits that a reduced scale facility in terms of tonnage per day would have on the community. And we're talking about 7,500 tons of waste, including green waste and recyclables per day here. So this is one of the largest facilities that would be in the city of Los Angeles. I believe it would be in the top 3 when you total up the amount, 4,000 tons of municipal solid waste, 1,000 tons of recyclables, and 2,500 tons of green waste. And so from our perspective, a reduced scale facility has always been the best mitigation to be sought here, because it would reduce the impacts in every category of analysis, from air to trucks to noise and odors. Where else with respect to the health risk assessment that Mr. Goldsmith talked about earlier, the EIR does identify that the cancer risk to an individual worker at this site would be 9.56 in 1 million. The threshold of significance is 10 in 1 million, so we're not talking about a very big gap here. And in fact, one issue that hasn't been raised here is really what the baseline to measure the environmental impacts of this facility should be. The way that the EIR does it is it takes the 1,500 tons per day of trash that Bradley was taking in 2003, and it takes that as the baseline. So it essentially excludes from its entire analysis the impacts of 1,500 tons per day of trash, even though the facility stopped taking in that trash in April of 2007 when the landfill closed. And the result of that is that the analysis of impact in each category is underestimated by roughly 32%, because the impacts of 1,500 tons per day of trash are excluded. And so when you include that additional 1,500 tons per day, it would certainly bring that 9.56 cancer risk in 1 million much closer to the 10 in 1 million that's considered a significant health risk. In terms of the green waste, we believe that it is not a by right use in an M3 zone. We don't think that's what the municipal code says. The municipal code imports the uses in the M2 zone, and the M2 zone is clear that green waste is only permissible in an enclosed building. So when it imports that use into an M3 zone, we don't see why that would read out the requirement of an enclosed facility here.
Thank you, sir.
And we think that's a dangerous precedent for the city to adopt.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the gentleman?
Yeah, this is probably going to seem a simplistic question, but you've talked about addressing the air quality impacts through capacity reduction. But if there's not a concomitant reduction in the flow of trash generally, then aren't those trucks just going to go someplace, say, for example, in my district or someplace else in the Sun Valley area other than this facility? If you don't have some reduction in the trash flow, restriction on this facility, isn't that going to have an exactly equal increase in the need to dump in one of the other facilities in the exact same community that already exist?
Yes, it depends.
So that's my first part of the question.
Yes, it depends where that diverted trash would go. I mean, we're talking about an environmental improvement justice district here, and so to me, the precise location and the flows of the trash are very important when you analyze where it would be going. And I don't think it necessarily would be flowing to Sun Valley, or certainly the EIR didn't go into that level of analysis to look at if you had a smaller facility, where would that difference in trash, where would it be sent? And I think that's a reasonable question, but I think that's something that should have been addressed in the EIR, as opposed to just a speculative assertion that trucks would have to travel to other facilities and that could have ramifications for those communities. We're talking about a heavily impacted, already overburdened community here, and a low-income and predominantly Latino one, I might add. And so to me, those precise truck routes and where that diverted trash goes is very important in terms of the environmental justice analysis. And again, unfortunately, the EIR did not make that analysis.
Yeah.
Although it did acknowledge that there were environmental justice concerns here given the demographic composition of the community.
Well, and it's pretty important to me too, because while this facility is on the border, literally on the border of my district, there are other facilities that are, I mean, it's one community, despite where the political lines happen to be drawn. It is one community that's impacted, and there, as you've pointed out with your discussion about cumulative impacts, there are multiple facilities in that area, and one of my concerns is that by restricting this project, which has mitigations and which has design improvements and so on, that some of that capacity then has to be pushed off onto existing facilities which may or may not have those sorts of negotiated advantages, if you will. Do you know offhand which facilities within the area have the capacity to be able to handle green waste now, or are permitted to handle green waste, if you know that? And if you don't know that, then maybe the waste management folks.
Well, Bradley's currently permitted to handle green waste at the rate of 1,240 tons per day, and that would continue whether this expansion is approved or not.
Right, I get that, but I mean, if there's a restriction on this expansion, what would be the range of options for green waste disposal other than this? Anybody?
Once again, thank you for ceding the podium. Once again, for the record, Dale Goldsmith, there are only 2 facilities currently permitted in the city of Los Angeles that accept city waste, the Bradley facility and then the community facility, which is 1 block away. So if it's not here, it's going to go down 1 block away.
Yeah. But I think the question was with respect to green waste.
Green waste, yeah.
Green waste, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
I mean, again, I'm a little concerned here that the only 2 options that the city seems to be looking at are Sun Valley, which has already shouldered more than its fair share of waste for the city. And your argument seems to be, well, we need to expand this one, otherwise it'll go to another facility in Sun Valley. But that seems to be a fairly limited menu of options here.
Well, that's a pretty big concern of mine too, you can imagine. And that's exactly why I pose the question. And that's also why I'm concerned about making sure that we are as correct as we can be about some of the mitigation measures, the host fee, and the benefits that will derive to the entire Sun Valley community, I hope, that will come from that. Because, as I say, even though there are, political lines drawn through here, the impacts will certainly impact my district and the surrounding area as well. So I want to make sure that that is as enforceable as it can be. And it sounded to me like we have a level of satisfaction on that point from the city attorney, and a belts and suspenders waiver from the applicants here who have conceded that point, I think. So my concern would be that if not this project with these additional protections, you're exactly right, and that my concern is precisely the one that you raised, which is that then it comes over to community or someplace else where, it's impacting my constituents without any of the kind of protections or benefits that we're talking about in this project.
But with respect to the green waste, if the city concedes or allows here the doubling of green waste to be done in the open air, it's going to be hard pressed when any other facility, including community, comes to expand its green waste and makes the same argument about a by right use given the M3 zoning. So I think there is a very real outstanding legal question here about whether open air green waste is permitted by right in an M3 zone. In my reading of the code, it is not. Waste Management has argued otherwise. And I think this is something that obviously will have ramifications for the entire city in terms of its green waste policy.
I'm going to pose this question to the city attorney, and I hate to put you on the spot, but when we look at either county or state requirements, is it possible that other jurisdictions would have requirements of covering this portion of the facility because of all the state laws that exist? And are there any agencies that would review this project under that light?
Well, you can put me on the spot, but sometimes I just don't know. I don't know what those regulations are, and I just remember that staff had said, well, I think it was the applicant had said that our building code would require them to go down to bedrock, and it just wouldn't be feasible for them. But maybe staff can address that if they know the county-wide or regional-wide.
Does anybody from the planning department know or might have reference to other conditions and or standards set by other agencies, whether it be the state or the county, that would address that concern? Let's say yes or no.
Frank Kwan with the planning department. No, sir, I don't. But there are regulations on covering green waste. The M3 zone does not require the covering of green waste or enclosing of green waste facilities. M2 and M1 do, however, require enclosures. That's kind of the official interpretation from previous council meeting.
I'll ask other questions, and you can take care of what you're going to do. You want to do that? Want to go take a break? Okay, I just wanted to...
I think that's an open legal question, and I'm not clear on what the legal basis for that assertion is.
Well, let's do this.
I think there's a lot of questions here still to...
Well, wait, just a minute. Why don't you take a seat? I think you're done with the finance, and we're done with questions. Thank you, sir. There's three areas that are still relatively gray for me, quite frankly. One is that I'd like to understand what other agencies, whether it's state or county, who have an influence in the nature and the development of this site. And that's a real question I think we need to have answered before I feel comfortable moving forward. Two is I would like to put forth, and I'd like to have this discussion with the council office, if it would be acceptable in moving forward with a blanket of protection, if you will, another layer of protection for the residencies. I just learned of this concept a few weeks ago, and for example, in the official police garage, trucks are not allowed to go into residential areas. They're not. And there are consequences and circumstances that need to be imposed upon, and the council office could sponsor that language in terms of if they feel comfortable in protecting the residencies of these trucks so that they don't meander or go off route, that they go directly to the site and do not impose upon the community that's surrounding this facility and protect the neighborhood from trucks going into other parts so they won't deviate from that route. And they call it a no-fly zone. It sounds like a plane, but you get the idea. It'll restrict their route and restrict trucks. And so those are the two areas of concern I'd like to address. And if I can continue this for 1 week, it gives us a chance to address other questions that might arise in regards to the legalities of enforcement. I would like to take more time to look at the language of enforcement, so that way we have a much more precise committee report to the full council and how those issues are addressed. And if we can continue this for 1 week, and we will close public hearing right now. And please, Mr. Conejo, I want to make sure we have the opportunity to speak. Chief of Staff, am I not mistaken?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Been doing that for 14 years. So, let me. There's a couple of things that I think are important, and we started this process with Waste Management wanted to expand the dump site, wanted to add 43 or 47 feet. I can't remember what it was, but it was more than 40 feet of height into it. Councilman Cardenas rejected that right off the top. Said, no, we're not going to expand the landfill. So we got to that site. They proposed several iterations of this buildings. We got down to this process. What I think is really critical about this discussion, though, is that when Councilman Cardenas became Councilman Cardenas in 2003, former council member Ruth Galanter had already constituted this advisory committee. And she was actually the one that put the different types of communities together. She had submitted the motion. We respected that process and brought the people together. We did about 40 plus meetings through this, through the last 5 years or 7 years of this process, really the 5 prior to that. Many of them 2 to 3 hours long. And when we got the EIR, the Community Advisory Committee paid for experts to review it. These were independent experts that were paid for that brought on water issues, air quality, and transportation issues. Lastly, there was this idea of not allowing trucks to go into the no-fly zone is something that we are comfortable with. The reason that we are comfortable with that is because we believe it's the natural instinct of a hauling company to not just meddle around a district. The concern we have about it is those that have contracts to pick up garbage within a area. We're talking about garbage trucks that enter in through different places. So there's a little bit of a concern about how do you designate who is in the no-fly zone and how do you, make that happen, because you have to have garbage collection. The other thing is that this is really a state-of-the-art facility. We are going to put a facility in place that is setting a brand new standard for this. When you look at Sun Valley, there is so many of these uses in place. We have more pick and pull junkyards there, car yards, junk cars in that area. We have tons of closed landfills that have no activity going on, that have had nothing going on for the last 30 to 40 years. And so we have a lot of these spaces that this is an opportunity to use something that has been, that would lay there feral, as most would say, and to use it for a purpose of maintaining 230 jobs. That ultimately is what gets down to, for us, is the important part of this is we now have in place something to have the environmental protections, something to help mitigate health concerns, and we're going to help preserve some of these jobs. Those are important for us, and it's why through this long and difficult process, really difficult process, the councilman has come to the conclusion that he would support the project, and we've been very involved in making sure that the mitigation language was strong to our belief that this is the best way to move forward. And we thank you.
Believe me, I have a great amount of respect for Councilman Cardenal's passion for the community. I think he has shown it many, many different times in different ways throughout our history together in the council. So I appreciate everything you've just said. And I know this is not easy.
Well, and I'll tell you, as Councilman, as being an engineer, some of this stuff that was in the CIR, he read through it, and I'm just like, well, I don't know, and he got it, so it's kind of annoying as a staff member.
Hopefully you can get sleep tonight. But the fact is, I would like to continue this 1 week. It would give me a chance to look at the legal language as it's been presented. It would give us some chance to do some research as to what kind of verbiage we can come up with the no-fly zone concept. And 3, to understand the roles of other jurisdictions when it comes to this type of a facility and its impact on the local area, and perhaps give both parties a greater sense of comfort knowing that we're drilling down to that detail, knowing just how much work you've already done, because I know you've done a lot of work. And it's kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel, but you're not out of the tunnel yet. But we're almost there. That being said, Councilman, we will continue this 1 week. We can digest this significant piece of work. And para las personas que están aquí, gracias por el sacrificio. Yo sé que no es fácil estar aquí en este edificio municipal, pero ojalá podamos traer a cabo un caso, un proyecto más justo para la comunidad. Muchas gracias. We'll continue 1 week. Okay, this kind of, what do we have next? If we can ask you to take your conversations outside, we'd appreciate it very much. Si por favor pueden llevar las conversaciones afuera, sería, lo agradezco mucho. Next item.
Yes, council members. Next item is item 5 is a motion corrects Reyes directing planning and with the assistance of CAO and city attorney to prepare a draft ordinance for a full cost recovery as it relates to planning department entitlement requests.
So this is 4 and 5 together, right?
No, Councilman, 4 has already been acted on. This is 5, which is a full cost recovery rather than a phase-in approach, which was approved on number 4.
Can you do 4? Can you give us a report on number 4 then?
Not sure if there's someone here from planning. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Please give us your name and position, please.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Eva Yuan McDaniel, Deputy Director, Planning Department. Should I start with number 4? Okay. Number 4 is the Planning Department's report for the implementation of the 3-year phase-in plan for the citywide overhead. And also, the same amending ordinance contains some corrections to emissions and modification of the fee ordinance that was implemented on October 26th. And the Planning Department's report includes the 50% of the overhead, which was adopted by Council on August 5th, 2009, and it's a 3-year phase-in plan. The first year is 0% for the citywide overhead, and second year is the 50% of the overhead, which will commence July 1st, 2010. And then the last year implementation will be the rest of the the overhead will be 50%, and that will be on July 1st, 2011.
Okay.
And just a little background. The planning new fee structure was based on a fee study conducted by the Planning Department with assistance from Matrix Consulting. The report, the study was conducted over a 6-month period, and the first report was presented to Council on April 17, 2009. And after the report was published, the Planning Department has met with stakeholders, including the community members, neighborhood councils, and also the development community. And Council and also the Plum Committee met several times on the fee report, And when council made the adoption, certain changes were made to the fee structure. First of all, the fee report was based on 100% full cost recovery.
Right.
But council made a decision during the adoption to make some subsidized, make some case processing subsidized with general fund. That's cases related to single-family dwelling properties and historic properties, and in addition, the appeal process. And that subsidy decreases the total revenue, and the concept is that processing costs will be subsidized with general fund. And what this new amending ordinance, hopefully effective July 1st, will bring an extra revenue of about $850,000 in terms of citywide overhead recovery, and that will go to the general fund.
So Councilman Corretz's motion, what it does, it pushes up what would happen over, I guess, a longer period of time, pushes it up front.
It will push a three-year phasing plan to a 2-year. Okay. So because we're in year 1 right now, which is we're not charging anything for to recover citywide overhead
so collapses years 2 and 3.
Yes, it will make year 2 100%.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Michael Davies, thank you very much. And then we'll have Barbara Boyd, and then we'll have Sandy Brown, and then we'll have the council representative Christopher Coons. Sir.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Michael Davies. I represent the Engineers and Architects Association, IUPA Local 8000. The reason I'm here is to speak in support of the motion by Councilman Koretz, seconded by you, Councilman Reyes. Primarily our concern, as you're aware, probably 85% of the employees of the planning department are represented by our union local. Right now, or by the end of this current fiscal year, the staffing level in planning will be what it was in October 1997, where we bottomed out after the early 90s fiscal crisis, where there was a bloodletting. I think if you remember, we lost folks outside. Many people were bumped back.
Right.
That's 13 years ago. The regulatory context has changed, is far more complex. But in addition, we're in an era now where furloughs have been imposed on our folks, and then also in the mayor's budget as proposed. We would like to protect as many of the folks in the planning department who actually process cases from furloughs. $803,000, I believe, is supposed to be saved in the planning department due to reduced work days or hours in the coming fiscal year. If this can generate enough money to cover that deficit, what we could ensure is the folks who process cases will be able to work to their optimum level because they won't be faced with furloughs and reduced work weeks and pay periods. It's very contradictory to, on the one hand, want to commit to folks who wish to develop in the city that they'll get expedited processing, while the folks who process their permits are forced to take days off. And I would hope that this measure would assist in ensuring that that's not the outcome that occurs, but rather folks we've assigned to case processing get to work full-time and process these cases.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. Our next speaker. You have...
Thank you, Chairman Reyes and members. It's my pleasure to be here to speak on behalf of this bill. I'm Barbara Brody, Westwood South of Santa Monica Boulevard Homeowners Association. Our group looked at this motion and felt that this was a win-win for the city, a win-win for the residents, the taxpayers, and the developers. And our feeling was that the initial reaction might be to fight it, but in fact this will be, if it is fought by development community, it's an example of penny wise and dollar foolish, because as projects come before the city and the impacts of cuts are felt, this will delay. Having inadequate staff will delay the processing of applications and will slow down projects and cost interest income, mortgage costs, all kinds of expenses, and we run the risk of losing the experienced city staff that we need in order to get these projects reviewed appropriately. So we think it's a win-win. We think we don't need to consult with development expediters and lawyers, that we really only need to look at Bob Dylan and the Beatles. And the two songs we reference would be, number one, The Times They Are A-Changing. April 2009 was a different time. Second one is Yesterday, All My Troubles Seem So Far Away. They aren't far away anymore. They're here, and this is one way to help to relieve the pain and suffering and get on with the business of city government.
I was glad I have those songs in my head from now till tonight. Thank you very much. Any more songs? Sandy Brown?
Good afternoon. I'm Sandy Brown. I'm president of the Holmby Westwood Property Owners Association and delegate to the West Side Neighborhood Council. I have come before this board many times, and other boards as well, testifying usually against the development. I didn't have a clue that I was subsidizing the process of permitting fees and so on and so forth. But then I thought about it, and I thought, well, maybe that somebody is subsidizing things that I do as well in City Hall. So I guess it wipes itself out. But so often you hear the developers say, you know, it just doesn't pencil out. Well, I guess it also hasn't penciled out for the planning department for a long time. Right. And I won't repeat what Barbara has said, but certainly we concur and we strongly support this and think it's about time that, I mean, you're asking for really 1 year difference. It was a 3-year phase in, and now we're into just a 2-year phase in. So we strongly support it and hope that you will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, for taking the time. And last but not least, representative from Councilman Corretz's office.
Good evening, Chairman Reyes and members. The councilman appreciates your consideration of this matter. Just to give a little background, the council did make a policy decision to phase this fee in over a period of time. In the view of Councilman Koretz, the fiscal situation has deteriorated such that we do have to rethink that and make a different policy direction to phase in all of these fees at this time. And while, you know, we did receive the same letters that I'm sure your office did, concern from the development community about the impact of this fee, the ultimate calculus for Councilman Koretz was, if these fees can prevent layoffs and can improve the city's fiscal situation, that is in everyone's interest, including the development community. So we're asking that, based on these monies being necessary to protect essential city services, that a 1 year acceleration is appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, my colleague?
Yeah, no, I think this makes terrifically good sense. The one question I have, and I can't, as I'm flipping through my pages, find the answer to it. I think planning staff mentioned that made a reference to appeal fees. And I want to make sure that we're not doing anything to increase the costs to appellants. We went through that issue, or, well, the council before I was here went through that issue of trying to raise appeal fees and then retracting that effort, as I recall. So I want to make sure that nothing in this modifies that and makes it more burdensome on neighborhoods or folks who are opposing a development to file an appeal.
Now, item number 4 is strictly for the implementation of the citywide overhead and some technical correction. There's no new fees, or the fees are not going up.
How about in number 5? Or
number 5 is also just for citywide overhead. I want to clarify something. The citywide overhead collection does not come to the planning department. It's not going to lower our chance of being furloughed or risk of like layoffs. What this money will do, we estimate about $850,000 in fiscal year 2010-11. That money will go to the general fund to pay for departments that provide services to the planning department, such as city attorney coming to meetings, or general services for whatever services they provide, such as custodial services. Those are the departments that will benefit from this collection. If we double the collection, this whole thing will go back to the general fund. What the planning department wants to make sure is that the subsidized portion that council decided a year ago to make the case processing whole is there in every fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions? So Roberto, we move on 4 and 5 or just on 5?
4 you already acted by asking the city attorney to prepare the ordinance. 5 you can adopt if you wish.
And that would be the recommendation, we motion to move this on 5, Councilmember?
So moved.
So moved. That would be the action of this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Roberto, what's left? Number 10?
I believe you, unanimous consent, so that would take you to 10, which is a hardship exemption in CD 10.
Okay, just a moment, sir. Staff here for that?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman.
I'm sorry, just a moment. So we have staff presentation, or is it pretty straightforward?
Councilman, typically in hardship exemptions, there's no staff present.
Okay.
It's up to the council office to shepherd the issue through committee.
So why don't you just summarize it, then we'll go.
Sure, what it is a hardship exemption from the Windsor Village ICO, and the applicant is seeking to add additions to the rear house, and the property is located on Crenshaw Boulevard in CD 10.
Okay, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Thank you for your patience.
Oh,
you're the last one in the room.
You're welcome. I will explain very shortly because we are all tired right now.
I'm about to suggest that we support you.
Yes. My name is
Zhang Lee. Councilman, would you like to hear his case? Yes. Just quick.
Yes. My name is Zhang Lee. I'm an engineer and I designed this project. This project is 66 square feet front porch addition and 438 square feet back addition, attached addition. This house is located at 895 South Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. And this we ask a hardship exemption because the owner is paying two mortgage. He bought this property about beginning of this year.
Right.
So he paid up.
So just for the record, I just want to make clear, you want to make the improvements.
Yes.
So you can basically make obligations, you can improve the house, right? Physically?
Yes. So this house is not located in the Windsor, the Hancock Park area. This house is right on the street. Right next apartment building and three-story medical building is there.
Okay, we're trying to tell you that we want to support you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we grant the hardship exemption.
That would be the action of this committee. So you're good.
You
granted.
Allow?
Granted.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your support and again your patience. Anything else, Roberto?
Just clarity, Councilman. The clerk brought this to my attention. On number 4, we approved the instruction for the city attorney to do a face-on ordinance. But on number 5, we adopted the motion for the full cost recovery. Is it your wish to also to do one ordinance that would be a full cost recovery or a face-in approach?
If we can essentially achieve what number 5 is trying.
Then.
And then we can fold in, and perhaps number 4 should be readdressed so that it's clear that number 5 is the end result of our efforts here.
Okay, very
and
good.
that the direction for 4 is to reflect number 5.
Okay, thank you, Council.
Okay. Anything else, Roberto?
Public comment.
Anybody for public comment? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned, and thank you, Councilmember Krikorian, for your support.
The hardship. Well, you don't even schedule the council. It's agreed to. So it's a done deal. Because I forgot to print out the right. Oh, okay. So I just got to. Oh, no problem. I'm here all the time. I'm here all the time. Jeez. Pre-prom. I Oh, you do? Oh, she's punishing you. This committee.
Oh, were you?
That's the final one. Yeah, that's yours.
Good afternoon, or evening, I guess.
I gotta be doing 14 regardless. It was granted in part, denied in part, right? Because they adopted some of the. It seemed that one was never. I know. It's incredible. All right, take it easy. Getting me in trouble. Getting me in trouble.